What's going on, guys? Jurassic here. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make a lightning bolt inside a blender. So we're going to get rid of the default cube, do Shift A underneath mesh, you'll be adding in a cylinder. The bottom left hand corner here, you'll see the add cylinder. You can lower your radius from 1 all the way down to 0.06 or so. That's the way it looks, about the width of a lightning bolt. Zoom in some, that way you can see the very top of your screen, and click on the object, click tab to go into edit mode, and you'll select the third option over here, which is going to be the face selection tool. From the very top, you can click G to drag it down, and from here you can slowly start building your lightning bolts. Click E to extrude up, and that way you can start building your legs. You can connect varying paths together, so build your base, and then we'll show you how to connect them afterwards. Alright, so once you're happy with one of your cylinders, if you do Shift A underneath mesh, you can add in another one. If you duplicate your object and rotate it, that would work, but if you try to scale it down any, it is going to change its radius some, so just keep that in mind. So if you're adding in objects manually, I recommend zooming in, because one way it might look like it's connected like there, it sort of looks like it's in, but if you'll just rotate your camera view some, you'll see that it's way off. And your finished product should look something like that, where it looks at the connection point. But just like before, all we have to do is click into the tab to go into the edit mode, and there you can grab the face and start customizing. Alright, so before we get into changing the widths of things too much, let's go ahead and connect everything together, that way we see what we got working with us. So from the main cylinder, head over here to this wrench icon, add in a modifier. We're going to add in a Boolean modifier, and then you'll be able to click on Union, do cylinder 1. I recommend doing one at a time, that way you can see your objects connected, and you'll notice now that everything is highlighted yellow. Then click on this downward arrow and click on apply. So now this shape here is cylinder. So this 0.001, we just move you out of the way and click H to hide you. That way we don't accidentally do it again. So now from here, we'll add in a Boolean modifier. We'll add in number 002. Click on confirm. So once again, we can just drag you out the way, click H to hide. And same with the third one. You don't want to accidentally include them in, so let's do Boolean 0.003. Make sure it's under Union and click apply. Now we have one solid lightning bolt. Alright, so now if we click on tab, we can actually customize everything all together at once. So selecting these other face tools, you'll notice that you'll get a whole lot of different options here. So this will give you the points at the very end here. So if you want to have your lightning bolts have like a pointed tip, I recommend having it on the third one over. Hold Shift to make sure you select everything, that way it all turns orange down there. Hold S and drag it in, that way you can get a nice cone shape at the very end. Now you can do that exact same method with the second option here. You can select the area inside there, and that's going to be the union point. So if you keep it on the first one, if you select like a leg, for example, you'll notice that if you're on one side, it won't actually select the other side. So you will have to pan around the camera. That way you fully select everything. But if you want to scale the legs down to something a little bit skinnier, you can do that. If you're selecting multiple areas, you want to make sure you're holding down the Shift key. That way it continues to keep everything together. And then you should be able to drag it in something like that. So that way it just makes it a little bit more randomized. And you'll notice points that aren't selected if they're not orange. Alright, now I think that looks pretty good. So now we're going to head over here into the Materials tab, click on New, and then we're going to change the surface to an emission shader. This is going to be for our coloring, and then we head over here to the Texture tab, click New, we're going to change from Image or Movie to Clouds. Alright, so now that we have the texture set up, you want to head back over into the Modifier tab, click Add a Modifier. We're going to be adding in a Displacement, which is going to be underneath the Deform category. From this little checkered area here, click on that, and that's going to apply our cloud texture. And then you're going to want to lower the strength. That way it's going to give like a random pulse, something sort of like that. That way it's just completely randomized, just to make it look a little bit more crazy. But to animate this, we're going to be able to hover over the strength icon, click on I, and that's going to insert a keyframe. So down here at the bottom where we have our timeline, we're actually going to be swapping this time. So click on the clock over here, swap it over to the graph editor, which is going to be right here. And then you'll notice whenever we click on our object, we're now going to have a strength displacement. So you want to, sometimes this will be pushed over like that. You just click on the arrow key and it'll pop over. Click on the modifiers, add a modifier, and you want to add in a noise modifier. So the scale is going to be how fast it's going. The strength is going to be to how much is actually going to be changing. Then if you click on play, you'll notice that it's going to start pulsing just like so. So you want to lower this down some and play with the values, whichever suits best with whatever you created. So if you want to keep your relative shape, try to keep your strength and your scale relatively similar. So I have the scale at negative 0.3 and the strength at 0.3, and it looks like it's keeping majority of the shape, but it still is giving that pulsing effect. All right, so now that you have it randomized, you want to head back over to our regular timeline. So you want to click on this editor right here, swap over to the timeline section, and this is where we'll actually be able to start animating. So to first off, you want to make sure you have your camera aimed at the lightning bolt. So click 0 and see where your camera's at. If it's not aimed at it, do Control, Alt, and 0, and it's going to snap the camera to whatever object you're searching for. So the plan is going to be to have it so it comes in from the top, does its thing, and then it goes away back at the top. So at frame 20, for example, we want it to be in this exact same location. So let's do I, location, and scale. Now at frame 10, for example, if we do S0, you'll notice we have a gold dot. If we bring the gold dot to the very top of our camera view angle right around there, it's going to be just outside of it. So we're going to do I, location, and scale. So whenever we're slowly moving through the different frames, you'll notice it's completely disappeared and everything. Once we get to 10, it's going to slowly start appearing from the very top. It's going to burst, make a whole bunch of noise, looks super cool. And then we're going to slowly go away. So the plan here is going to do the exact same thing on frame 30. So we're going to do S0, bring the gold dot all the way up to the very top, just like you did before. I, location, scale. So now if we play this back, we're just going to use the arrow keys. That way we can control the timeline a little bit easier to see everything. It's going to burst in, do its thing, and then it's going to slowly go away at the very top. Now it looks pretty cool. If you wanted to add a second one, for example, all you have to do, I recommend copying it whenever it's at its full form. But for this cylinder here, if you do Shift D and place it on the exact same place, and then we're going to have to get rid of all of these other options here. So hold on, so let's get rid of all the frames. Then we'll be able to move you all the way over to the other side. If you play, both of them will still pulse, it's just that that one is going to be completely disappeared. So this guy is coming in right there. So if we have the location to be a little bit further in the back, maybe. So let's scale this guy down some, move him over there. So just to give it that 3D feel. And then we can bring him down to roughly about there. So that way the tip of the lightning bolt is just on the outside. That way it's not cropping out too much. So we'll do the exact same plan of on frame 20, it's going to be at its full scale. So let's do I, location, scale. Go over to 10. Actually, let's change this up a little bit. We'll do 25 and 15 for this one. So we'll do S0. Bring the gold dot all the way up to the very top. And as long as it's out of the camera view, it doesn't matter necessarily if you put it in the exact same quadrant or not. So do I, location, scale. And then on frame, what we got? 35, it looks like. We're going to do the exact same thing. So S0. Bring it all the way up to the very top here. I, location, and scale. So now while we're playing through this, we should have one burst in here right here. It's going to slowly go away. We got this guy, and he's going to go away just like so. And we got two lightning bolts. It's going to be fully done at about frame 35 or so. So technically, if you want to crop your timeline at 40 frames, you'll get everything for this example. So we are going to customize a few things. So you want to head over to the Properties tab. We're going to swap from the Cycles engine over to the Evee engine since it handles the bloom. You want to make sure ambient occlusion is on, bloom is on, screen reflections, motion blur is for things that are moving a whole bunch. We're not necessarily worrying too much about that. Same with the transparent background. We don't need to have that selected. For the rendering and the sampling, I do tend to crank this up to 500 and 256 since that seems to work best for my system. Frame rate, if you want it at 60 frames, you can have it there. In file format, if you do FFmpeg video, you can have it as a MP4. So now that we got all that set up, we're going to head over to the shading tab real quick and start customizing some stuff. So the world, we're going to turn it, it's like a little bit of an off gray right now. So we're going to bring it all the way down to proper black, and that's good to go. For the cylinders, however, we're going to head over into the material area. So go over into the object. Now you'll notice both lightning bolts actually have the exact same material applied, and that'll be 100% perfect for us. So one thing I will say right now, if you turn on to have the render view, it looks kind of cool, but it doesn't look too glowy. So a way to improve that is going to be to increase the strength. So if you bring it up to about like 7 or so, it looks pretty cool. But another thing you can do to customize this is if we add in a color ramp and let this control the color. So if you drag this in just a little bit like so, click on your lightning bolt, then right before it actually comes in, it's right at about 10, we're going to do another keyframe, so hold I over the position, then it's going to do its thing, all the way full scale, and then right when it goes away, we're going to crank this value to a little bit close like that. So we'll do I. So now while it's actually going to be going in, it's going to be changing its brightnesses, and it'll give it a little bit more of a pulsing effect. So since our other cylinder actually comes in relatively quickly, it's not actually going to need to be changed too much since you see the color ramp is still moving anyway. So we'll just keep that as the default value because by the time it goes away, it's going to be roughly lined up for what we want anyways. So that really worked out for us. Now, some other things to make this look a little bit better. Under the video, make sure you have H.264, quality lossless, and encoding is good if you want to have this as an MP4 video. Alright guys, well that's going to be it for today. If you guys enjoyed, make sure you leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.